It worked. Woo!
There you go.
Cobra Kai.
Start there. Go ahead, Josh.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Real Time for the Real Everyday Movie Fan. I am, of course, your host, Josh Williams.
I'm Ryan Murphy.
And I'm James Sheridan.
Thank you so much for joining us. And because we are here to give you our spoiler-heavy review of Cobra Kai Season 5. Now, let's just jump right into it, guys. So coming into this, I think we're all of our expectations were really super high, especially that what happened with Season 4 with John Kreese getting arrested, Terry Silver taking over. And I don't know, I was very excited for this show. I'm going to go ahead and kick us off just with my overall thoughts. Again, this is your spoiler alert. We're jumping right in. I mean, if you haven't seen it, please go watch it, come back. But if you have, join the conversation.
Yep.
Coming into this, I feel like this is in certain aspects, this is the best season of the series. And in other aspects, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
The first part of it is just how much better the acting has gotten with the kids. I loved how there were certain stories that wrapped up, story arcs and character arcs that wrapped up between characters. For example, Miguel and Robbie.
Yeah.
I really loved how that kind of
I was really happy about that.
That arc has finally gotten taken care of. And God, that fight scene where they had it in the alley, like in their apartment complex, was awesome. It's just great storytelling in a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of loved how that, and then you have new storylines starting out of that, especially things with like Tori and the kid who Robbie was mentoring, Kenny. So I really love those kind of things. How you can see the progression of story arcs and character arcs.
Yes, sir.
The part I didn't necessarily care for is, so one of the things I loved in the first, I think you guys can all agree, maybe not. What I love so much about the first 4 seasons is there is technically a protagonist and antagonist, kind of, especially when it came to Johnny and Daniel. I love that the first 4 seasons kind of played in that gray area.
The first
gray area, what?
The first 2 seasons did that. Once Kreese took over Cobra Kai at the end of season 2, then it really became Kreese / Cobra Kai is the enemy, and Daniel and
yeah, but it still played in those gray areas to me. Not until season 5 now, where we had Terry. Like, yeah, John Kreese did, but you still had some gray area between him and Johnny.
No,
like the sympathies and stuff like that. Yeah,
he was the bad guy, and Johnny and Daniel were the good guys. And
again, I said there are protagonists and antagonists, but there's still a gray area within their characters. Whereas for this, Terry Silver is just, especially Terry Silver, and especially his new henchmen that he hires on, these new senseis.
mm-hmm.
It just became too clear cookie cutter of protagonist versus antagonist, good guy versus bad guy. Whereas the other seasons, it kind of really delved into that gray area of life. Whereas this was more, I don't know, I didn't necessarily care for it that much, but it's not a huge deal. It's not a huge deal at all. It's just something I'd noticed after really.
It's also
really
the only way it was
season.
going to happen. It shouldn't happen any other way. That's the way. I mean, I don't know if can you offer an alternative? That's what I always say. Like when you complain about something, can you offer an alternative? Because for me, this is the natural progression of the story, is for it to go
maybe with the villains. But at first, I liked Terry Silver because he became an actual good guy in a way. Not a good guy, not a good guy, but you know what I mean. Like there was.
When they brought him in, he wasn't full villain yet.
I get you. Yeah, okay.
He was more sympathetic.
So the alternative to me is stick. Yeah, sorry, James.
Well, he was like an entrepreneur. He was trying to like live a good life and not be pulled into the Cobra Kai sort of thing. But once he got pulled in, he just went full villain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's to me like, and that to me is the alternative. Stick with those grays, like stick with those moments of reality that they're really. To me, I found those so compelling. You know, throughout the season, especially the first 3 seasons, in my opinion, I found that very compelling. It's not just this, you know, straight good guy, bad guy kind of thing. I don't know.
See, I wouldn't say it was good guy, bad guy, or there were gray areas. The entire impetus of the show has been to see the story from Johnny's perspective at first. And now that's ballooned out to being a much larger story. It's barely about Cobra Kai anymore. It's about the relationship between Johnny and Daniel, and like they're back and forth. And like the first season was very much about Johnny being not necessarily the hero, but seeing things from his eyes, and seeing that, Daniel's not always perfect, but even in the original films, Daniel wasn't perfect. Daniel was, you know, they did a great job of like illustrating just, some of the things that Daniel did weren't great either. And Miyagi kind of like taught him a better way. And I think that really came home when they brought in, what's her name? Allie, because she gave a third perspective on all this stuff, and it's never been as black and white as they make it seem. That said, it's the Karate Kid. It is about heroes and villains. It is about overcoming evil kind of thing. And even if there are shades of gray to those characters, like even in the first film, Johnny was reluctant to do some of the things Kreese asked him to do in the tournament and whatnot, especially, in terms of like injuring Daniel and whatnot. He was never fully evil kind of thing. He's just in the sort of influence of someone who is just a straight up bully. Like there's no other term for Kreese but a bully. And then even then they started introducing concepts like showing, Kreese's backstory, making him more sympathetic, which I never cared for.
Still a villain, right?
It never worked for me. Like I like him being a villain. And that's why I like when Silver came in and kind of put aside his whole entrepreneur, I'm trying to do better kind of thing, and just went full villain. I liked him better as a villain, as a sort of obstacle for the Miyagi-Do. And just like I just thought he was a better approach. But we're getting off topic of this season. We're discussing the series as a whole. Let's get back to actually.
I want to make sure that John has his spiel, and then James, I think you've already done part of your spiel, but let's make sure you two.
I haven't even discussed this season. I'm just discussing the show as a whole.
I'm still into this season, Scott. That was my kind of overarching thoughts. No, going back to still in the season 5, I still love Thomas Griffith as Terry Silver as a villain. He's such a great villain. I just found other stories where there was more gray compelling. The story of his characters and the story itself. That being said, it's still a very great story of this season. I mean, I'll go on some more stuff here, especially with a lot of the characters, a lot of different story arcs that I love that closed, especially with Samantha and Tori at the end. They're still kind of not fully there, but I like that slow progression of Tori realizing her faults, or not her faults, but also the faults of Cobra Kai. But James, did you have anything else to go before we go to Ryan on their overall thoughts, and we can dive into some more stuff?
I mean, I haven't even really touched on this season specifically. For the most part, I really enjoyed this season. Like you said, I enjoyed a lot of the sort of like a lot of these stories coming together. I don't think they're necessarily finished as stories. And I think that certain stories, because of the stories that they're moving forward to tell, like Robbie and Miguel kind of making up, they have to do that because they're progressing with sort of a familial unit between them. I really enjoyed, there's a point where sort of the three sort of junior villains from the three films were allied together without Daniel there. And it's like, that was kind of fun to watch. The three of them stand shoulder to shoulder kind of thing. And I wish one of those characters had a little bit more character development during this season. He just kind of shows up intermittently and then kind of disappears. And it's like, it's fun to see him.
Mike Barnes.
Mike Barnes. Yeah. I didn't want to get too far into it, but like I felt like that was something that should have been developed a little bit more. There's a couple times where I've heard people make the argument that a lot of the fights that aren't, tournament based or very specifically story based tend to feel kind of forced. And I started to feel that this season, where it felt like we need an action beat in this part of the story kind of thing, but the justification for the story beat didn't kind of work for me. Like when they're at the pool and they're just like starting a fight and then backing down and starting a fight and backing down. It's just an entire episode of like, we know you're going to fight. Let's just get to the fight. And it's like, it's the same as like the ballpark in the last season, or like the paintball fight in other seasons. It's like a lot of the time I don't feel like these are super important to the story, and it just feels like they kind of get in the way of the story. I'm disappointed that a lot of the background characters kind of have faded further into the background. And even some of the like tertiary characters, like Hawk and like the nerd guy, and some of them just kind of got like less time this season. They keep teasing like Anthony being a more important member of things, but then like he disappears for large swaths of the season, and it's like I'd like to see more development of these characters. And then there's the one thing that really kind of stuck in my craw, and that's the Miguel father storyline, because it's an unfortunate holdover from the ending of the second of the last season, where like Miguel's going off. He's you know he sort of felt like Johnny's been this father figure to him, and he's never had a true father figure. But then he sees him with Robbie at the end of last season, and then takes off to find his father. And I realized that they have to resolve that storyline, but it felt like it didn't. It kind of meandered and didn't go anywhere, and then it was just done and forgotten about. And I feel like what you could have done better was like tie it further into the whole Johnny being his sort of father figure type of character thing, and make the connection between, especially with like Johnny now being a father of a third child, or third child to be kind of thing, and Robbie and Miguel making up. I feel like this familial unit thing that they're building, I feel like they could have connected the two storylines a bit better, and like made the threads between the Miguel father storyline and Johnny being a father figure to him a little bit stronger and a little bit more not on the nose, but like a little. I feel like thematically it's there, but I don't feel like they connected those dots. And it's a minor quibble, but it's the one that really kind of bugged me this season was it didn't feel like there was any point to that story, and I feel like they could have made it more significant.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. I found that interesting because I actually found that I liked that part a lot, because I liked the through line of he goes to find his father and he realizes he's not who he is, and the real father figure is there for him. Like he's traveling to Mexico for him. He's he's doing this and that for him, and then it's kind of the cherry on top when he realizes him and his Johnny, his mom, is having a baby. And
yeah, but I don't feel like they ever cemented a moment where it's sort of like the realization for him that Johnny is his father in this.
That's when he walks out. He literally walks out from.
He does, but I don't feel like that moment. Like I don't know, it didn't resonate to me the way I thought it should have, and I feel like that entire section of this story was sort of wasted, and could have meant more, especially with the theme of the latter half of the season, or latter 2/3 or whatever. I guess that's just me then, but
that's fine. Hey,
I agree that plot line seemed. I mean, I'm happy with the way it resolved, but I also feel like it just was there for the first 2 episodes, and it's like, okay, we're done with that, and let's move on.
Yeah.
I love that scene. I love where he walks out from seeing his father and sees Johnny, and it's like this realization, like, no, this is my father. And then he sees Robbie, and he's like, fuck, all right, fine, I guess. I don't know. And then later on, he has his resolves things with Robbie, but at that moment, it was just like, because he kind of left because Johnny said, I love you too, Robbie, when he was really drunk. That's kind of what got him to leave. And then he sees Johnny, he's like, yeah, okay, Johnny is my father. And then he sees Robbie, he's like, fuck, all right, well, I guess he's here. He's not going to not be here, but Johnny's still my dad. And then later on kind of embraces Robbie, and we're going to hopefully see those two become even more brothers as we move on. But if that's
not just brothers, but they're now allies. Like they're thinking together and acting together as a pair. They're not friends necessarily, but they have a mutual sort of goal moving forward, and it's not just them butting heads the entire time.
But to follow off, so I'm going to sort of say my thoughts. First of all, I agree with Josh when he said in some ways this is the best season of the series. It is sort of it felt like a climax. It felt like a lot of things were finally happening. I feel like the progression of the series has been very clear. The first 2 seasons is like Johnny starting Cobra Kai. He's sort of the protagonist, but at the same time, he's not really doing what's right, because Cobra Kai is wrong. It's wrong in its philosophies. It's not wrong it's not wrong to start a karate dojo, and we're rooting for Johnny in that regard. We're rooting in his relationship with Miguel, but we also know that he is wrong in a lot of the philosophies that Cobra Kai, like strike first, strike hard, no mercy. That's wrong. That is wrong. So we want to see him run a karate dojo. We want to see him be a mentor to Miguel, but we want to see it better. And that sort of comes to a head at the end of season 2, in what is probably the best moment of the show by far, and one of the best cliffhangers I've ever seen. And I came in late, and it was still an incredible cliffhanger for me, and I still had a hard time waiting. That moment where they play the song "Cruel Summer," like a slow version of it, and everything's gone to shit. and Miguel is paralyzed or in a coma at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And the 2 seasons since then, I've been a little disappointed. And I really thought season 3 was kind of filler because I thought that the whole point then was, okay, now it's like a clear villain. Now Kreese is the villain, Cobra Kai is the villain, Johnny and Daniel have to team up. It's going to be a bromance with them. That's what we've been wanting to see. Since part 1, season 1, like that's been, I think, what they've been building towards is Johnny and Daniel shouldn't be out. I mean, Johnny should learn his lesson and do things differently, but then Johnny and Daniel should be allies and brothers and friends. And we wanted to see that happen. And I felt like that was what we were going to see as soon as season 3 started. And it took us the whole season 3 to get them to be allies. And then so season 4 then was all right. But this season is finally, we are starting to see things that we have. I mean, last season we got to see them be allies, but this season it's even more coming together. That's a huge theme of the show. First of all, we all know, and James I know loves this, is that a huge theme of the show is redemption. Most of the bad guys are in this show don't have to be bad guys. Most of the bad guys in this show, Robbie at one point, Tori, Kenny, most of the people who are at Hawk, especially, most of the people who are at any point in this show, bad guys, are redeemable bad guys who we are rooting for to see them redeemed. Some are just assholes like Kyler, Kreese, Silver. I mean, some of them, maybe they'll get redeemed, but that's not what, like Hawk, Tori, Kenny, we are rooting for these guys to come around and join our heroes. And finally, this season, we start to see that. We finally see Miguel and Robbie make amends. We finally see Tori come over to the side of good. We finally see all these things happen. And all our heroes, there's this wonderful moment when all of our heroes, many of whom were villains previously, have come together and they're now against Cobra Kai. And I just felt like when this season ended, if I had to check my phone, I was like, are they? Before the stinger at the end, I was like checking my phone. Is it over? I mean, this is over, right? Cobra Kai is now done. That's the show's called Cobra Kai. Once Cobra Kai goes under, it's got to be over. Miguel and Sam end up together. Robbie and Tori end up together. Everyone's pals, everyone's friends. This has to be the finale, right? And then Kreese breaks out. I'm like, what the fuck are they going to do? There is no Cobra Kai anymore. Like, he's not going to run it. He's a fugitive. So it's just going to be him like being like a serial killer. Like, I don't know.
Well, I think that's where the villains that they started to bring in this season, the whole concept of the extra sensei and this I don't remember her name, but the other woman sensei that they brought in, and her whole legacy. I don't think they've dived into that nearly as much as they're meaning to.
Yeah.
Not to mention it's Karate Kid. If they're going to end it, it's going to end on a tournament.
Yeah.
So we know it's going to go to a tournament, and they're already setting up that tournament,
right.
But they have to resolve some other things first, I think, to get to that tournament.
But like even some of the like real bad guys like Kyler, even he was done with Cobra Kai at that point. And so like I'm looking forward to it because even though that was kind of a good series finale moment, like there's still stuff I want to see. Like it's mended, but I want to see it come. Like Sam and Tori, I think are meant to be like friends, not just like, okay, fine, I fucked up, I'm sorry. But like I think Sam and Tori are meant to have like a bromance or whatever, a girlmance. I don't know. They're meant to have a bromance, and Sam and Miguel and Robbie are gonna, become even better friends. And I think I've always thought like the show is gonna end like with a like Breaking Bread sequence where everyone's just having dinner together and everyone's cool with each other, and except for the irredeemable bad guys. And we thought even there was a moment in our last review of season 4 where we thought, man, even Kreese could have a redemption arc because he's starting. Yeah, now that's just fuck no.
that was that gray area that they were alluding to with him. Now it's not the case. So now it's not the case at all.
He's breaking out of prison, coming for our heroes. But anyway, I thought let's just sort of sum up my thoughts. I thought that it was, it brought together a lot of the stuff. And I think the last season will sort of just be an epilogue that will kind of bring things together a little bit more. And what I'm most looking forward to is seeing all our characters being all the redeemable bad guys being redeemed, everyone being friends, except for the irredeemable, except for Kreese and Silver and, Kyler and all those guys. And I'm very happy with this season. And so there you go.
So some of the things, like just getting this, I'm gonna get some of the details of what I like specifically to kind of expand upon things more. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of small things that I really loved. For example, nothing tickled me more than to hear Chosen and Johnny bash like Daniel, like some of the things
Together
that
and
they did with each other.
Russo
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
I just like, to me, I was like, that's great. I did really like how they kind of, when we came into this season 5, at least I did, I kind of imagined that Mike Barnes was going to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like he was going to be his
I think
bad
that
guy
was-
stuff, but no.
I think that was intentional. They were trying to set it up that he's going to be the bad guy. Like even the
And-
trailers implied that, oh, they're bringing back Mike Barnes. He worked
Yep.
with Terry Silver.
But I love that turn on its head kind of thing, and just so no, he's just a regular guy. He learned from his mistakes back when he was a kid, and he's just trying to live his life. But then when he gets pissed, that little bit of Mike Barnes comes out, and that still badass like killer.
Yeah, the one I don't mean to interrupt you, but the one thing that was just stupid. It was Mike. My life is ruined. My store burned to the ground and everything. He's insured. Like there's no company that doesn't have. You have to have insurance to run a company. And at the end, he's like, I'm stealing this painting. It's got to be at least as valuable as a furniture store. I'm like,
Didn't he say something about it not being insured, or like it was
I didn't catch that if there was, but
or like he implied that like it was a lot of the money was sort of under the table kind of thing. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong.
But yeah, keep going, Josh.
No, it's fine. Sorry, I had it. From anybody watching, I have a little bit of a cold, so I got some sinus drainage going on. So every once in a while, I need to take a break and, blow my nose and whatnot.
Yeah.
But anyway, no. So I still liked those moments there, especially like with like you said, I think someone said earlier, I think Ryan did. I really loved when you see the 4 ex-villains of the the X3 villains team up to try and fight Terry. And I was like, that's just awesome. Like all side by side. Like I still love how, even though this is Daniel and Johnny's story, when you look at it on the face value, Chosen is still like the most badass of them all, kind of thing,
Yes, but I also dislike that it bugs me that they made this character who is supposed to be such a badass into like just constant comic relief. Being comic relief once in a while is fine, but like every line out of his mouth is a joke, or like meant to be, him saying the wrong thing by accident kind of thing. And it's like, just let the character be a badass once in a while. And like to me, it felt like the Master Splinter problem, where they don't know what to do with Master Splinter. So he just becomes a constant joke in the background kind of thing. And it's like, there's character there. Why can't we explore that character? And like, that's why I do enjoy sort of like a bit of the drunken scenes and whatnot, when he does let down his guard and starts talking about, his missed opportunities of love and all that stuff, and him trying to slowly regain his honor, and that stuff I enjoy. But yeah, the trying to constantly make him the butt of the joke got a little tired after a while. That said, his fight scene was fucking awesome. Watching him go full balls out. I do enjoy the joke of him like constantly carrying the size everywhere, and it's like it finally pays off at the end of the season that he gets to use the size.
Yeah.
That was great.
That moment. Yeah, so that I just really loved those moments there. The other one I really liked was, as far as the story, is you see these things a lot in movies and TV shows where something happens in the story with the characters, and then they use it later on to help fill in a different part of the story.
Payoffs,
Yeah, payoffs, a lot of payoffs.
Yeah.
To me, when I saw it, like when they were doing the egg exercise, and then that's why it kind of surprised me, because I know Anthony didn't get a lot of screen time necessarily of character, but he did get to show off how smart he was, because he came up with that idea and that plan of having one person hold it and everyone else, form around them and protect it. When I saw that, I was like,
it kind of came out of his cowardice too, though. Like it's like I want him to grow into a Miyagi type character, where like he fully embraces the sort of Miyagi-Do perspective, but like he's sort of stuck. Like he's no longer the bully and he's no longer the brat, but he's not, as a character, I feel like, really growing that much. And it's like, I want to see more development of this character that's been sort of like, I mean, he disappeared for like an entire season or two at one point.
Yeah.
And then just kind of came back to be like this bratty teenager who's lost a bunch of weight. And it's like, I know that they're not focusing on him, but like the side character thing kind of bugged me, because the side characters are part of the fun of this world that we've developed, and watching all of these kids learn and develop and grow. And it's like, this is one of the side characters that I feel like they've let kind of not, like, I understand some of them, like the two kids I keep calling Bebop and Rocksteady, who are just kind of like background guys and whatnot, and occasionally have like roles and conversations. Chris and the other kid, I can't remember Mitch.
Yeah.
Oh, penis breath.
Mitch. That bugged me. I don't like that. And like him turning at the end, completely justified after the way these people have been treating him.
Oh yeah.
Like
for sure.
I'm completely with him on that. Like there's no reason he should not have turned. Like it's terrible that he turned, but at the same time, it's
No,
like
Oh yeah.
these people who are supposed to be your friends have been like cruel and mean to you the entire time. And it's like, you're no longer in Cobra Kai. Why are you still belittling this guy?
Right.
No,
No, I agree with that one. But that's to me like,
but those characters, I don't mind not having as much character development. Whereas like, this is one of the LaRusso kids, and he's like almost completely irrelevant outside of like a few story beats here and there. And they've started to give him more, but like, I want to see his personality grow, and become
I think
a
we
little,
will.
little bit more.
I have a feeling this will probably go to the season. I could easily see this going to season like 7 seasons.
Oh no, I think they announced it's a 6-season plan. Especially since Cobra Kai is done. Like there's no more Cobra Kai. How are you gonna call it Cobra Kai? I don't know. But I think James, you even said that did you guys freeze? It's probably why I keep talking, and you guys have probably talked as well, and I'm probably seem like I'm talking over you, but you are just frozen on my end. Okay,
I love the internet.
Yeah,
There
okay,
we
there you
go.
go. You guys are
No,
back.
so I get your
James,
complaint. I do, but that's why I loved how the writers incorporated him into that story point for the payoff at the end. And that was to me very clever. Like they had to protect this laptop so they can.
Oh no,
upload
that was
this.
great. I'm all for this. That entire setup and payoff was one of my favorite things about this season, because I am a sucker for setup and payoff. When you establish a plot point earlier in the story and it comes together at the end as this quick sort of like, we don't even need to explain what's happening. He just yells out, "Protect the egg." Everybody knows what to do, and the entire audience knows what's going on. That stuff's great. I love that kind of shorthand and storytelling, and I love that it was him that did that. My point is that I don't feel like he's much of a person. He's kind of one dimensional. Like Ryan keeps talking about the one bully that Kyler, who I don't think is even a character. He's a prop in the background that they use once in a while for comic relief. Like he's not even a bully or a villain. He's just a guy there to cause problems once in a while. And it's like, I don't mind him not having any sort of character development, and I don't mind him just being that. But I do feel like Anthony needs to be a person.
Yeah. And,
especially being a LaRusso.
Yeah. Hopefully
like his cousin gets more character development than the kid does. Come on.
One of the last things I really loved, well, not last things, but I'll bring up some more, but I just want some other people to get some talking time, is I always wondered, they kind of somehow talked about it, how Amanda and Daniel met, but then to realize that she is related to the actress, the character from the episode, not episode, from the third movie.
Yeah.
Like
I didn't even recognize that it was her. I just thought it was a cousin, and like she showed up, and I'm like, am I supposed to recognize this person? And then someone pointed it out afterwards. And I'm like,
well, no, then they start flashing back in one of
But to me,
I'm talking about between episodes. Like she just shows up in an episode, and it's like, I'm supposed to recognize this person who I haven't seen in 30 years.
Right.
And she doesn't look anything the same. And it's just supposed to be like, I just thought it was, it's this cousin that maybe they mentioned at some point and I've forgotten or something. And it's like, I didn't put 2 and 2 together that it was the girl from the third film. And it's like, I do appreciate those moments coming back, but I feel like that one, they didn't work in as well.
Yeah, they probably should have, when she first enters, they probably should have done, because they did the flashback later. I feel like when she first shows up, they should have done it then. So that's for be like, oh shit. Like, but still, once you figured out who she was, I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like, to me, character telling there of that's how
they met.
That's
like
how they met.
Everyone else that they
really awesome.
Everyone else from any of the films that they've brought in, there's been build up to that character, build up to that moment. Like he gets a phone call or something and it's got the name on it, or like Johnny was constantly looking at Ali's Facebook kind of thing. And they were building up to that. Mm-hmm. And then him going over to Japan to, meet the people that he knew there. And like, there's been slow buildups. Even the villain from 3, Mike Barnes, there was buildup to that. Mm-hmm. This one just kind of popped in out of nowhere. And I'm like, I didn't recognize her for like an episode or 2. And it took me a while to realize what was going on until they started showing the flashbacks. I'm like, was I supposed to understand that? Or am I just like face blind?
Right. Last thing I'll bring up, and then I'll have to go to James to some of his stuff. Now, I understand, James, you're not hatred. That's the wrong word. You're disliked of how some characters become more side characters, didn't get enough time. I understand that. I still feel like with how many characters there are, this season did a great job with giving people, enough screen time, but also keeping the focus on the big five. To me, the big five in the story arcs is Johnny, Daniel. More importantly, for me, the main three, in my opinion, is Miguel, Robbie, and Samantha. Those are the big three that you need to really focus on. And then, of course, Johnny and Daniel, because the show's based on them, but they're the future. And to me, focusing on them, they all three of them, I can't pronounce Miguel's name, the actor's name.
I think it's Cholo.
I think it might be Holo. I mean, that's
Holo. I
well,
don't know what
that's
X is. And...
X is Javier, right?
Yeah.
But like it's something Olo, something Olo.
Yeah.
Well,
him, Tanner, and Mary, Mary Mouser and Tanner Buchanan and Holo. They all just did their acting.
Apologize to Holo for our
I sincerely apologize. I'm excited.
We're not trying to butcher your name.
I'm sorry. I'm excited for him to play Blue Beetle. But anyways, no, I just feel like their acting has increased sevenfold since they first started, especially Mary Mouser. Maybe I'm just a sucker because I have a daughter, but I'm just like rooting for her every second she's on screen. And yeah, I'll get in some more stuff because I have one last thing at the end. But James, did you have any specific things that really stuck out to you this season that you just loved?
I have a problem with when we do these reviews because even when I love something, I feel like I spend half the time shitting on stuff, and I feel like I've given the impression this entire review that I hated this season. I loved this season. I thought this was a fantastic season.
Right.
I just wanted to bring up some of the things that didn't quite work for me. A lot of the stuff did work for me. Like Johnny has never been my favorite character. I've never cared for his character arc. And I don't care for the way he kind of deals with things. And I was so proud of him this season for
the most gross.
how he embraced the revelation that he's going to be a father again. And that he didn't run away from that. And like, he actually, like the entire montage of him, like retrofitting his entire apartment and making it safe. And like, sorry,
those roaches though.
The roaches are terrible, but like
that was horrible.
The fact that he's gone all in on this and he isn't running away, and like he already has these sort of two sons, and like he put real effort into trying to like get them to break bread and kind of get back together, just because he knows that this familial unit, and the moment he reveals to them after this fight, and he reveals that like the ulterior motive is that they're going to have a kid, and the two boys hadn't heard that yet. And they're both like,
slip.
All right. They're both like happy about it. It's like, I love that moment. That was great writing. That was great character. Johnny's development has been fantastic. Like I said, I love, oh my God, my ability with names right now. I just was talking about him. Comic Relief.
Oh, Chosen.
Chosen. Thank you. I love that Chosen was a person this time, because one of the things that kind of bugged me about his appearance in, I think it was the third season, maybe the fourth season, I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
When they brought him in briefly, it was a great sort of like wake up moment for Daniel, but I don't feel like he was a person at that point. And for the story they were telling, they didn't need to make him a person, but I love that they brought him in, and like he got time, he got to be, they got to like reflect on his past and like joke about, his schemes when he was a teenager, and like just him being more of a person. I love that. I love again the whole thing with the three of them going to face Silver, who again, I've loved him being a villain because I just love outright villains. Like, to me, gray area villains are so boring. I love people who are just outright villains, and to me, Silver is one of the better. I love but I don't mind when there's nuance to the character, but like Magneto's
best villain.
I don't like Thanos as a villain because to me,
love him.
No, because they softened his sort of goal so much that people actually agree with him. I'm like, no, you're not supposed to agree with him. It's still genocide. It's still terrible.
Exactly,
okay?
But that's
it's supposed to
the compelling part.
That's not compelling to me. That's not a good villain to me. That's just gray area. I don't care for gray. Like, Vader is a full-on villain. I love Vader as a villain, but like there's still character and nuance to that, but like he's still evil, and like the redemption arc is the fun part, but it's like Silver, the reason I love him so much as a villain is because he's not just a bully, whereas Kreese I would say is more of a bully. His antics are more bully-ish. His antics are more about sort of bothering other people or making life hard for other people. whereas Kreese gets into, or sorry, Silver like really kind of has the ability to get into other facets of your life and really fuck things up for you. And him doing that and tormenting Daniel in a way that, you know, Kreese could never even dream of, kind of thing, using his resources to torment and kind of hurt other people. I thought really kind of made him more compelling and made the stakes of this season so much more interesting, because it wasn't so much, you know, I can just beat him up kind of thing. First of all, Daniel can't beat him. He just can't physically beat him in a fight. But second, he can't beat him mentally or financially. And it's like, this is a villain that's just, that flummoxes this guy on every level. And it takes the brilliance of these kids to figure out a way to expose him for what he is, kind of thing. And I love that development of like that kind of villain that you can't beat and you need to rely on the people around you to help you figure things out. And it's not just, you know, Daniel on a one man crusade kind of thing. He has to he has to rely on these kids to figure things out. And I love how masterfully, like, the entire sequence of them breaking into the dojo and, you know, the two nerdy kids are, you know, hacking the mainframe and all that stuff. And like, you buy that these guys would know how to do this and whatnot. And that they're doing it well. And then everyone else just being muscle. And I know you guys hate him, but I loved Stingray this season because I loved his arc from being the guy who kind of ratted out Kreese.
No, I love that part too.
To being, you know, to him sort of having a redemptive arc, and people complain about him being sort of a Deus Ex Machina. And I'm like, no, I don't necessarily agree with that, because I do feel like there was some character and personality to that. And like, his growth as a person, like, he's still sort of one-dimensional and more of a comical character, but I love that they brought him back, and I love that he had something to do, and that, you know, he got involved and you know, sort of made the right decision. There's a moment where the two women are alone at Daniel's place, and they hear that the Cobra Kai cars, or they say something about Cobra Kai is here. And like, you're freaked out because you think they're done, and then you're watching the three sort of side villain characters, you know, getting slaughtered, and you think all hope is lost, and all of a sudden you just see this car ripping out of nowhere, and it's like, you know, the turtle's come out of his shell, Stingray's come to save the day. And I just, it made me so happy seeing that, and him getting involved, and again, the kids, just them figuring out the plot and realizing how to resolve this, and all of that coming together. I love it. One of my favorite things about Stranger Things is, and I know this is a tangent on something else, but it comes back. I do have a point. Is every season the team sort of splits up and goes off to do their sort of separate things, but there's a moment in every season when the team starts to come back together for sort of the final gambit that they go off to do, and when they all start to come back together, that moment always makes me happy. Even though I know there's pain coming because someone's going to get hurt or die or something. That's part of what I love about this, is that moment of them sort of coming together and realizing, and not just, you know, the Miyagi-Do and the Eagle Fangs, you know, people from Cobra Kai are starting to realize that this isn't right. And everyone's sort of like starting to kind of join forces together. And like you guys have said, that whole sort of culmination of like the 5 seasons made me so happy, because as Ryan pointed out, I am such a sucker for redemption arcs and for, you know, team ups, and like, all these people should be allies. They should be friends, and they should realize that Cobra Kai is not the way you go about life. It's just cruel, and it's just, you know, it's wrongheaded, and it's just a terrible way to train children to, you know, be in, like, so like, seeing all of that come full fruition was great. And now we're in a great place to launch towards this sort of international competition that they've been teasing in this season, which kind of begs the question, like, we don't have Cobra Kai anymore, so what's the villain in the next season? I do think it's going to be the senseis, but I do feel like this is an opportunity, because all of this has been sort of insular, with the exception of traveling to Japan, within the valley. Everything's happened in the valley, whereas we know that the canon of Karate Kid takes place in other places as well. There is opportunity to expand this, and I'm hoping with more international sort of characters coming into this story, there might be opportunity for, you know, there's other aspects that we haven't explored. We've explored the 3 Daniel films, but we still haven't heard anything about Hilary Swank's story.
I don't think we're gonna. That's their.
So hang on. There is before we go into that, because that was one thing I wanted to ask you guys, because there's a theory going around.
Well, there's one more that I want to get to, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, one, I want to get back to your point about Stingray, because yes, up until this season, I did not like the character whatsoever. I thought I felt sympathy for him for getting his ass beat by Terry. But this season showed more layers to the character than ever. Like, I love the scene of the D&D scene. That was very nuanced, very layered as far as his fear, his materialism, his, I am in a comfy place. I don't want to lose it, but I'm also scared for my life. I love that. And he's a great actor. I mean, nothing against him as an actor. I love him as an actor. He's been in some great films that I've really enjoyed. But this one, I felt the more nuance and development and layers of his character now than ever before. Whereas before, I just felt like he was a caricature, and I thought he was a dumbass.
I think at the end. Sorry, I don't. But I think.
No, go ahead.
I think this is like my final say. But I think the show will end with they're going to choose a name for Miyagi-Do / Eagle Fang. It'll hopefully be something that's not stupid. Daniel, obviously, he has his own day job to go back to. He'll leave it to Johnny to run the dojo, but they'll be partners in it, and that'll be Johnny's day job, and they'll get married to Carmen, and they'll live with Robbie and Miguel, and Sam and Tori will be best friends, and Miguel and Robbie will be best friends. And then I think the last little thing is that Stingray is going to be a salesman at LaRusso Auto.
Oh,
That'd be
God.
dope. I'd love that. I just like that character so much.
And
He's
I wish
also
I had
he's
more with him.
getting like such a loser. Like, he doesn't have any life. He lives with his sister or his parents or whatever in his 30s, and like and then he finally, like, the only way he actually breaks out of that, it has a nice place, is by doing something that's very wrong for Terry Silver. So for him to actually find legitimate employment, like a legitimate life, is actually his own little mini story. So yeah.
Well, that's something I've always wondered, if there was a point where the mother, the LaRusso mother, was trying to help Tori, and I really thought they were going to offer her a job at the auto place.
I think she might too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I had hoped that might be her redemption, is like, because she will be more exposed to Samantha and all that, and be part of their lives again, that they might patch things up that way. They went a different way from that, but I always thought that was sort of an in for them.
I remember I thought the same thing. So now that you bring that up, I think maybe Tori and Stingray will we'll both end up at the auto.
And like, let's face it, Tori could use the money. She's not in a good place.
Yeah.
Her mother really needs financial support. And if they put her, if they offer her benefits, family benefits kind of thing, like, that's huge. And like, I think, that family could do that and not blink an eye at that.
Yeah.
Right. So I was going to have you go, James, and I was going to give out my theory, the theory I've heard, but we're on the topic of Tori and her mother.
Yeah.
So this is a theory I've heard, and I want to hear your thoughts, because I find the theory to be interesting, but I don't know if I would like it, because it'd be a tragic ending story to this character. But there's a theory going out there that Tori's mother is Hilary Swank.
I hadn't heard that.
That's, I mean, now that you say it, I realize they kind of hid her face from us.
Yeah. On purpose.
But
to me, it'd be tragic, because she was such a cool character in her own movie. And just to have her be like,
that's like one of the most poorly received movies of the 90s. You got like,
yeah,
well, it's not 90s, but like movies from the 80s and 90s. You got like Supergirl, Howard the Duck, Mac and Me.
There is some fun stuff. Do not slander Mac and Me in my presence. I'm not going to defend that film, but there are some moments in that film that are fun and are interesting, and I wouldn't mind. Like, to me, there's bad stuff in the second film, there's bad stuff in the third film. The third film is fairly weak in my opinion, but they still made Silver and Barnes compelling characters.
Karate Kid Part 3, but yeah, at least that was.
I still feel like they could bring aspects of her story back, especially with her connection to Miyagi.
Well, I think she's going to die. First of all, like, I don't think she's going to make it. I think that
I'm not talking about Tori's mother. Whether it's Tori's mother or not, I would like to just see Hilary Swank back in some way, just to tie into that. And then the other one that I wanted, because it's going international, and because they've never actually, to my knowledge, delineated that they're not connected, the Jackie Chan Karate Kid film, which I know everyone hates. I love that film. That film is actually good. because they're going international and Will Smith is an executive producer on this show.
You can't have them take place in the same universe.
Why not?
They're too similar. Like the exact same thing happened to two
So
people.
the same story never happens again in the same universe?
Not to the extent that like we have, not the exact same story.
Kids are never bullied in more than one place and learn martial arts to fight against someone. It happened twice in the same universe in the Karate Kid films because of the Hilary Swank thing.
Well,
she got trained. So
that's if that's your dream.
It's not my dream. I'm just wondering, because they are going international in the next one and they're going to a major tournament, it's an opportunity to acknowledge those films that an executive producer on this series.
It's not the most impossible thing, but like it's more than just that. It's like, you know, he has this tragic backstory and he is so this kid's bullied and he finds this guy who's like, isn't he still, I'll be perfectly honest, I've never actually seen the 2010 film.
I think it's a good movie.
Is he still a maintenance man in his apartment building?
Yep.
And he has this tragic backstory, and his wife and daughter died, and he teaches him karate and he teaches him not. It's I don't think that those two things happen in the same universe.
He teaches him kung fu, actually.
But
it'd be very interesting. But for Hilary,
I don't think Will Smith's son is going to come back, but I would be open to seeing Jackie Chan again, in some capacity, or some other character from that franchise coming back, because it has been like 12 years since that. So all of the kids are grown up now. Right. As for your point about what sort of I've been thinking about this too. It's like, what banner would the dojo sort of unify under if they're not going to go with Miyagi-Do? Like, I would prefer them to go with Miyagi-Do. But this season they started laying in seeds of the symbolism of the lotus flower.
Yeah.
And looking up the lotus just now, it is a symbol of purity, rebirth, and strength. And I think if the two sort of organizations were to come together under one banner and start new, it would be a rebirth of all of their philosophies brought together under a new sort of banner kind of thing. And I think because they've laid the seeds of the lotus, I'm wondering if that's them trying to give us.
I think James did it.
That's
I don't know.
Good.
I'm just guessing. It's a wild shot in the dark.
Really good. I like that. Because we've clearly seen that, especially with Samantha, for example, that using just Miyagi-Do or using just Cobra Kai's teachings doesn't work.
Eagle Fang.
She blended both of them perfectly to when she should have won, even though Terry Silver paid it to lose. But you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's clear that they're blending those on purpose, and I think that's really cool. I like that. I didn't catch on that they were focused on the lotus flower. That's
they showed it. I noticed it as like part of the uniform at one point, and then someone pointed it out in dialogue. I don't remember exactly what they said, but I do know that, like, for all of my Ninja Turtle stuff, lotus is sort of a symbol that keeps coming up again and again in sort of Japanese lore. And I just wanted to double check and make sure. Yes, it is. The lotus commonly serves as a sacred for purity, rebirth, and strength. So because they're sort of starting over, and because it's sort of like a unifying of philosophies and them sort of putting the past behind them, to me, this would be a rebirth. This would be an opportunity. And as much as I love Miyagi-Do and the bonsai, and like bonsais have always been my dad always had bonsais that he was working on, and I've always found the practice kind of fascinating. And it's so important to the story, but because they're supposed to be moving forward,
right,
and putting the past behind them, including Mr. Miyagi, including all of this stuff that's sort of been weighing on them this whole time, I do think that would be an interesting symbol. I don't know if that's what they're going for. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. I do that frequently. No, I don't know how many of my theories have like not come to fruition, but
I like that one though a lot.
What?
This will be it. This will be the one.
So before we any last thoughts before we wrap this up, guys?
Like I said, my last thought is everyone's going to break bread together, and
that'd be kind of cool ending.
We kind of had sort of that at one point.
Well, yeah, they've gotten a lot of them together. Obviously, like Daniel and Johnny have got. I mean, now they've. I mean, the whole Eye of the Tiger scene was great for that reason. But like Tori included, I think that's like sort of the last standout is that Tori and Sam need to become best friends. And
and the girl that Tori is now training, and Kenny and all that. I would like to see them.
Devin,
Devin's never not been redeemed. Devin's always been she's not a character that's had a lot of development, but at the same time, like I've loved her this season, but it's not like she's had sort of any sort of like
Yeah. No, I like that story that Tori is a double agent this season, and she's not with Miyagi-Do, but she's on the same side as Miyagi-Do. And so when she doesn't, so she kind of encourages Devin to not give up. But then when Devin comes back to the dojo, she's like, I don't actually want you here. I'm a double agent. This is bad. I don't like this place. And so I enjoyed that whole story. But yeah, you're right. To see Devin and Kenny and Tori and Hawk and Dimitri and everybody just sort of maybe even not Hawk and Dimitri
and Stingray. We can't forget Stingray.
But to see like the main, like what Josh called the main five plus Tori, to see them kind of the two couples, because now Miguel and Robbie have both dated the same two girls. The four of them come to a peace. And Robbie end up with Tori and Miguel end up with Sam, and all of them go and have dinner with Johnny and Daniel. And then to have Tori and Stingray both end up working at the dealership, and to have Johnny running Lotus Flower, which is essentially funded by Daniel, but he's leaves it to Johnny. And I mean, just that whole big happy ending, I'm can't wait to see. So, but that's my last thought. Yeah. What was that?
James, go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, I love this season. I love that, like Ryan said, I'm a sucker for redemption, and the Karate Kid franchise is nothing but, characters being redeemed or characters growing and characters developing. And then, at the end of the day, it is always the good versus evil, the good guy wins kind of thing. Sometimes through like absurd means and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it is that story. And I think that that's what this needed to be. And this season was very much that. So I really enjoyed that. Maybe that's just me and my own sort of selfish need for that kind of story, but I'm a sucker for that. So it really hit home for me. I love seeing these characters, come together and whatnot. The development of certain people to kind of understand, certain philosophies are not acceptable and certain philosophies are not going to get you far. And the fact that, Kreese is kind of a loser and these people keep following him, even though like,
yes, Sensei.
Yeah. Like
that prison show, I was like, wow.
Like, obviously his philosophy doesn't get him very far. So why would you follow that philosophy? Why would you not follow the rich guy who's got everything, who has things sort of not fully understood, but to me, he always seemed like the better sort of sensei, even though he's not the perfect sensei and whatnot. So yeah, Johnny would be, a better sort of, and even Chosen would be sort of better senseis, but like everyone under that umbrella, I've really loved that coming together. Little things I didn't care for, but I mean, they are what they are. The Miguel father thing disappeared so quickly that it doesn't even really matter. I just wish, to me, it didn't connect as well as it should have. The background characters falling into the background because they're focusing on the primary characters is fine, but it is what it is. But for the most part, yeah, I've loved this season. I'm very excited to see where they go with the next season. And I know they've said that it's not connected to the movie, but I'm really curious because they recently announced they're doing another Karate Kid movie. I don't know how you do another Karate Kid movie in this universe without acknowledging the things that have happened in
they said
Cobra Kai.
Sony said like it's going to be a return to the original series, and then John Hurwitz came out and said, but it doesn't involve our cast, and I'm like, those two statements don't add up.
Yeah, so I don't know how you, unless they are going back to Hilary Swank, because she is part of that universe. I don't think that's what they're doing. I think they're going to be doing more Daniel, but it's like I don't know how you do a story. I don't know how you do a story after this Cobra Kai story unless it's connected to the Cobra Kai story. So I'm interested to see how these two things are going to connect moving forward.
I think one of those statements is fibbing, as people tend to do. I think so. We'll see.
I mean, given that the studio statement is vague, I think that it's probably more reliable that they're correct, that it is in that universe, and then how it connect. Like, I think the John Hurwitz thing is just him saying that like we're not involved, but I don't know. How do you tell that story without those characters? Is where I'm coming from.
Because you would almost be dumb not to capitalize on this popularity and bring them on the big screen.
Which is 100% what I think they're doing, is because Cobra Kai has become so popular on streaming, nostalgia is so big. The studio, Sony, has been very desperate to try and get a franchise going. They have tried 3 times now with sequels to
Ghostbusters,
Men in Black. They have tried so many times to get Spider-Man properties going, and the only way that happens if it's in the sort of hands of Marvel Studios. Ghostbusters, there are there is stuff in the works, but it's taken so goddamn long to get anything going. The only sort of thing that they've kind of come close on is Jumanji, which the last 2 films have been monumentally successful, and I've absolutely adored them.
And yet they left the second one on a cliffhanger, and it's been 4 years now and nothing. So I don't know what's going on with there, but
I doubt they're going to leave it there. If they leave it
Right.
there, I'm going to be pissed because that story needs to be finished. But
I agree.
them having this sort of like golden goose egg just sitting there and not capitalize on it, it'd be fucking stupid.
Yeah.
So
It'd be
I
pretty
see
dumb.
I understand why they're going after it, but I don't understand how you tell a story in this universe without connecting it to everything that's happened in Cobra Kai, because Cobra Kai is the story now. And I don't know how you progress from there. But I'm very interested to see where they go with it and what they do with it.
I'm very excited to see what happens in season 6. So since Brian is saying that this is gonna be the last season, it's gonna be the series finale with this
I think
one.
so. I can't find that anywhere, but James basically alluded that
I thought that they had said that after season 4. I can't find that anywhere either. But the way the story is developing, I don't know where you go after you basically defeat the main villain. You do the big tournament finale. And then what?
Yeah, because
especially
really
with the movie coming on the heels of season 6.
Yeah,
I don't see anywhere else for this story to go after that.
And that's the big question mark for me, is who's going to be now the main antagonist? What's going to be the driving force of the story besides the big tournament? Because you got to have somebody to give obstacles along the way. And
I think it's the woman. John Kreese, no, I think it's the one. I think John Kreese is going to be a foil, but I do think that I think he's going to be redeemed, because they've been pushing this sort of like he was a decent person at one point kind of thing. And I do think that he needs his redemption arc. He's the only character left to have one kind of thing. And I do think that the woman, I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting her name. I'm terrible with character names, and I wanted to show these people actual respect, but I think they haven't developed her enough, and her whole connection to this sort of villainous sort of method of martial arts that they were alluding to but haven't gotten into. Sensei Kim. I feel like she's going to be the villain of the next season, and they're going to go deeper into the sort of relationship between Miyagi-Do philosophy and martial arts and her side of the sort of philosophy of martial arts, and have those two butt heads now that Cobra Kai has sort of been absolved and redeemed.
Oh yeah, for sure. But either that, I'm excited to see where it goes. I love how we have new character arcs going, and we've closed some ones that been around since season 1. I can't wait, and hopefully it ends on a good note. I am excited to see how this big tournament comes about. But like I said, we'll see. Other than that, this season 5 really great in some aspects, especially I love the choreography. Nothing beats the choreography between Robbie and Eli in season 4 finale. That was fucking insane. But I feel like the choreography in this one really stepped up quite a bit. So that was a big one for me. So I'm really love this season, and I can't wait for season 6 now.
I mean, the Chosen Silver fight was pretty damn good.
Oh, it was pretty sick.
And had me on the edge of my seat when they cut away at the end after he got that giant gash in his back, and I thought he was done. And I was literally clutching my desk like, please do not kill this character. Please do not kill this character. Because I really thought he was done for. I don't know how you walk away from that cut.
Right. That was pretty great. That was very cinematic. It had a very samurai slow motion spots to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, choreography really stepped up this season quite a bit, and that was really big for me. So
except for when Daniel fights, he still cannot fight.
No, he can't. He really can't.
I love the actor to death. I love the character, but my God, can he not hold a fight?
Right. But that'll do it for today, folks. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight. More importantly, what did you think of Cobra Kai Season 5? Leave your comment section below. Give us your positives, your negatives, your score out of 10. Go straight into spoilers, no worries, and we'll join in the discussion. Also, if you like what you watched, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to receive all of our great content we have coming for you down the pike. Ryan's got a lot of great interviews coming up, and I have some kind of exciting news. I got my studio pretty much all the way, my new studio all the way pretty much redecorated. So we're going to get some more movie reviews coming down the way with Woman King Don't Worry, Darling, and Barbarian. I'm gonna be recording those here soon. Just getting over a cold, so keep a lookout for those. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Again, I'm Josh Williams.
I'm Ryan Murphy
And I'm James Sheridan.
Thank you for keeping it real.
with ReelTime.
Cobra Kai, Cobra Kai.